I'm Julie Baumgardner, and this is the Marriage on the Daily podcast, the podcast designed to give you tools and encouragement to help you do married well on the daily. Because after all, it isn't the grand gestures that make or break your marriage. It's actually what you do or don't do on the daily that either builds a strong foundation or chips away at your core. You can do this, and I'm here to help. Welcome to the Marriage on the Daily podcast. I'm your host, Julie Baumgardner. Chris and Jamie Bailey are my guests today. They are both Christian counselors and marriage coaches who are absolutely passionate about helping couples to have a healthy and thriving marriage. They are founders of Expedition Marriage, which is an amazing resource you totally need to check out. They offer retreats, they have resources, they have a newlywed couples devotional. I love you guys have been doing 30 days of prayer for your marriage, which I totally love. There's just all kinds of really great resources there. And they also have a podcast by the same name. They have been married for 31 years. They have 3 daughters and 6 grandchildren. So I know you guys are living basically a boring life right now. Is that right?
Far from it.
Just in the hammock.
So I really am excited to have a conversation with you all because you've been in this sphere for a long time, doing the work with couples. And one of the conversations that we were having earlier is just about how hard it is to make your marriage a priority when children come onto the scene. And even the culture will tell you that, oh, no, when children come along, they get first everything, their priority. And if you have something left over for your marriage, awesome. But your kids come first. And I would just love for you guys to speak into that and give us some tools and tips on how do you navigate this season well.
Sure. Yeah. And I like that you said a season, because it is a season. I mean, we like to support the idea of, especially when you have new babies, they're very helpless. They need to be fed. Please take care of them.
Yes.
Yes.
Please make them a priority,
Please.
But they shouldn't be the highest priority. And that's because in God's economy, just because we have children doesn't mean that God's economy changes. It doesn't mean that everything, maybe our schedules change, our sleep patterns change, but it doesn't mean that the structure or the hierarchy changes. And I think that's where couples, like your point, the world really kind of tries to paint a particular picture that doesn't really align with what God says. And usually go following along with what he says usually goes the best.
It works. Yeah.
Yeah, because when we look at marriage is a covenant. Parenting is a season. And so that always needs to come first. Your parenting comes second, and the health of your marriage is what makes parenting, so beneficial for your children. Yeah. And the more connected and healthier you are as a couple, actually the better parents that you become. And even, going back to Genesis, I mean, like you were talking about, God's design, God's plan, it's for husband and wife.
Sure. Yeah. For this reason, a man shall leave his mother and father, and the two of them shall become one flesh. There weren't any parents then, right? There were mothers and fathers. This was the establishment of marriage before the church, before government, right? This was God's first organized structure of society, and at that moment, that's when family begins. That's your family now. You leave your mother and father, your family of origin, and this is your new family. You don't have a family once you start having kids. That's an extension.
Which I think a lot of people think that.
Yeah. Once you're married, that's your family. Your two becoming one flesh. It's a process. You're doing that. And then you add to it if you're blessed with children. But as Jamie had said, that was just a great thing. Yeah. Once, the marriage is a covenant between you and God, and you've got to protect that. The kids, the idea of the kids is to launch them. We're not, right. I heard one time, we're not raising children, we're raising adults.
Amen. Grow and go. That's my philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other day, I was out. We've got some new trees in our yard, and one's, like a year old. And I was out there, and I'm learning how to be the gardener. It's debatable how good I am at it. But we have this little Japanese maple tree, and it's growing, and I'm looking up how to take care of it. And one of the points was to make sure that it doesn't have multiple leaders. And the leader is the main trunk of the tree. Well, at the top, my tree, sure enough, was branching out into 2 leaders. And I had to cut that one off. I had to prune it, which it's such a painful thing to do. It's so hard to do because I'm like, look at it. It looks like it's thriving and doing great. But if you have 2 leaders on that tree, what happens is it causes the tree to crack.
Yes.
And so it will kill the tree because it's designed to have one leader. And it's hard to do. And this is about pruning, which isn't what we're talking about, but I think it's the same thing with parenting because it's hard not to put our kids first. It's hard to disappoint our kids. And maybe for the sake of our marriage, guess what, guys? You can't play every sport every season, or no, we don't have the money to do this and different things like that. And that's hard. And that is a little bit like pruning because we're doing what our children need. And what they need is for us to remain the leaders and the foundation in the family because they're feeding off of us. And if we start letting our kids be in charge, that is, first of all, it's a whole lot of pressure for them. We cannot allow our children to be responsible for the health of our marriage and the running of our family. They need to be kids and they thrive off of boundaries. They thrive off of knowing our home is always safe. I don't ever have to worry about mom and dad separating or anything, coming between them. And I may not like everything they do. I may not like all their no's, but I have safety. Even when I'm a kid who's disappointed and angry, I still know I'm safe and secure. But when we let our kids take reign, that does go against what God has designed. And now we're giving our family kind of a faulty foundation.
Yeah. I talk a lot about your marriage is really like a security blanket for your children.
It is.
And when you are healthy, it's almost like your children can exhale. Not that you're not going to face challenges with them, but they feel safe. Like, it's okay to fail. I can just be a kid, like you were saying. I think that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, research backs that up. I mean, it shows that children who are raised in homes with stable, there's low conflict. We're going to have conflict. We like to share that conflict done well is a doorway to deeper intimacy. So you don't want to not have conflict, right? You just want to do it well. And so couples who are having this well done conflict, this low level conflict, the children have lower anxiety. They have lower depression. They have better emotional regulation and higher self-esteem. They grow up to become more secure emotionally in their own relationships when they get older and get into them. That's because, unfortunately, a lot of the things that we see children who come from families who aren't like that, which it's not about the parents, right? Most parents are trying to do the best that they can. And so, but those children aren't as emotionally secure. And then they have these patterns that they'll go into that they've learned to navigate relationships and conflict from watching their parents.
Yeah. And Julie, that's honestly why we became marriage counselors. So many years ago, sitting in our private practice, and I would see individuals, and I also worked with a lot of children and teenagers and young adults, and all of them, like the most common theme was they came from broken or dysfunctional homes. Yeah. And that's where I decided, and he's always had the heart for marriage, but that's where I got on board. And I'm like, wow, we need to fix the root of the problem. And just because all these individuals are coming in with many of the struggles he just mentioned, the anxiety and depression and, dysfunctional relationships, and they're all coming from dysfunctional families. Yeah. And when we, put all of our efforts into parenting and on our children and letting them run the show, then we neglect by default our marriage. And our children are aware of that. They're aware, and their safety comes when they know mom and dad can handle conflict. They know, and it's not just we don't have conflict, because that's a whole different issue when everything's swept under the rug.
Right.
But they know that mom and dad are always going to be together. They're safe. I'm secure. And so that really does change things. And it, like you said, it doesn't mean we need to blame parents and for how the kids turn out, but it does mean, like, God tells us, to teach our children, to train them in the way they should go. Yeah. And if we're not focusing on a proper foundation, where do we go from there? So we have to. And so from that, seeing all those clients coming from those dysfunctional families, it really made us, shift everything and go, we've got to get to the root of the problem. And that's why we focus so much on marriages, because I think if you change the marriages in society, you are changing society. Yeah. And it's not just, our marriage, we're seeing it now. We have those 6 little grandchildren. We're seeing how their lives are going because of our marriage. Because of the healthy home we allowed our children to come from. And now they're all in healthy relationships. So this isn't about just your marriage. What you invest in your marriage, invest in generations. And that's a big deal.
Yeah. It occurs to me, Jay and I both came from homes of divorce. And I mean, I think we everybody has some level of dysfunction going on in their home because we are imperfect people.
Absolutely.
And I also think people come to marriage and to parenthood with the greatest of intentions. I mean, want to do married well, you want to be great parents. And I know you guys have heard this, but I've heard a million times, well, I'm not going to have the marriage my parents had, or I'm not going to parent like my parents parented. And so they seek to do something different. So great intentions, but sometimes misguided in the fact that if you do allow the children to set the tone in the home, or you decide, okay, everybody else is doing this, so we've got to do this, or we're doing a disservice to our children, we're kind of missing out on the fact that there isn't a cookie cutter. I mean, there's boatloads of parenting books and marriage books, but you, and know what works in your home and with your children. So I'd love for y'all to speak to how do you create a framework in the midst of tons of comparison, fear of missing out, wanting to fit in, and yet I see parents running around dog tired because their kids are involved in everything and they're doing all the things, and everybody, it's just like we're ships passing in the night.
Right. Yeah. You get caught up in the busyness of co-managing the family. And you're not really working on the marriage and being a married couple, because another thing, I love my little pithy little sayings. And so one of them is I do. We get good at what we practice. And so if we practice running around like this and always comparing and always looking at the wrong things, we're going to get really good at that. So much to the point that once the kids grow older and they start to leave the house, well, we've gotten so good at just being co-managing that we're not good at. Right? You can't do both things at one time. So I guess you were looking at me like you're wanting to jump in and say something.
No, I'll let you finish.
Okay, no. So what? Because I guess it really kind of starts up, but goes back to that keeping first things first, seeking the kingdom, and because we're called to be holy. Matthew. I'm gonna look this up because I wrote it down earlier in anticipation of our conversation, because I knew I was gonna 7:24. I knew I was gonna have the wrong reference, but it's. Everyone who hears the words, that there be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And when the storms come, when the rain comes, not if, when it comes, right? Their house won't be knocked down because they built it on the rock. So we've got to be focusing on that first, which means we live differently than other people do. We live differently than the world. We live holy because we're called to be holy. It doesn't mean that we don't ever go to these activities or let our kids be involved. Right. But if what our focus is on what the world's presenting as right, then we got the wrong focus. We're starting off in the wrong place. And it's no wonder we're going to trip ourselves up and get ourselves caught into a situation that we're slowly fading away from the things that are the most important.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, what I think is super interesting about what you're saying is that the world, if you will, says that, but even the research doesn't say that. So if you look at research in terms of what's really great for marriages and what's really good for children, it isn't great to be running around doing all the things, because children actually thrive where they have routines, rituals, consistency, and structure versus just never knowing what to expect tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's so true.
Or what you're even having for dinner tonight.
Yeah, yeah, true.
And I think on a practical level, I love the idea. We have friends that are really good at this, and we recommend doing this, is sitting down as a couple and then even as a family and deciding. It's almost like developing a filter for your family. And what I mean by that is we have friends, they have their family saying that's to love God and love others. That's what they want the purpose of their family to be about. So now everything goes through that filter. Does this thing that's going to go on our calendar help us love God and love others? Does this, and so they have this filter, and you can decide whatever you want. And even if it's just the feelings you want your home to be filled with, we want it to be peaceful. We want it to be joy filled and things like that. And so then you filter. It's like, well, you know what? If we're going to 5 practices a week, we're going to lose our peace really fast. Yeah. And so now as a family, and so it's not just mom and dad against the kids. It's mom and dad holding the reins, but also teaching the children. Yeah. What a gift to give your children that says we're not following society. We're following what the Lord says. In fact, what the Lord says is the more like society we look, we're not doing so well if we look like the world. We're not called to look like the world. And so, but also your kids have fun, play sports, do things, but it can't come at this specific cost.
Yeah.
And so you decide up front, this is what our family is about. And that's how you filter things through. And that's how things make it onto your schedule or not. It's not a perfect thing. It's room for exceptions.
We write in pencil.
Right. But the general consensus is if this year we need more joy and more peace, then we're not going to sign up for this competitive sport.
Travel league.
Right. Travel leagues. If we need more stillness, or this is a year where we need rest, well, guess what? It might be a year where we take entire seasons off of things. And we don't sign up to, and even as parents, I can't volunteer at school this year or volunteer at church for this season because this is what comes first in our family.
Yeah.
And again, it's all seasonal and situational, but it's really good to have a filter that things can go through that really helps with decision making.
Yeah. If I could jump back in, because one of the things I was thinking about when you said that, because, okay, well, how do parents do this? Right? What are your values? What do you value as a family? What do you value? What do your children value? Right? Get their input so we can get buy-in on that. So it's a shared vision. But so just to drive your point home a little more, if we value family time, but yet we're running around never seeing and being a family, we're violating our own values.
Yeah.
And when values get violated, that's when conflict's most likely going to happen. That's when people's feelings are hurt and we get triggered.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and when people are tired and stressed out, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What I love about what you are talking about is it's not just good for your marriage. It's actually it's teaching through the process for the
Yes.
children. Not everybody gets everything they want at the time that exactly they want it, and so
Yes.
the idea of self-discipline. I mean, you just see a lot of young children struggling with I want it now, and then as they become teenagers, they do not have the bandwidth, if you will, to understand you don't get it right now. You're working towards it, and it will come in the future. And I think that is part of what it looks like to prioritize your marriage and to teach your kids in the process.
Yeah. What's modeled matters, right? You know, again, my pithy little sayings. We more usually gets caught than taught. And so, so our kids are going to see what we're doing. They pick up on it. They pick up on what we're prioritizing. They're picking up on what's important to us by what we're doing, how we're saying, if we're having something, conflict open or not, they pick up on that. They know what's going on, and that kind of stuff will start to affect them. And I was just even thinking the running around and in all this kind of stuff, or the division that Jamie was talking about, where, you got the two trunks that will rip each other apart. This is going to start to cause cortisol reactions in our children, and it's going to set them up for a life where this starts becoming normal for them, and it's going to push them in a direction that we're not wanting them to go.
John Medina, who wrote the book Brain Rules, I heard him speak one time, and he was talking about moms with young children would come into his lab, and what he was looking for was cortisol in the brains of children, really young children. So he would have conversations with the parents, and they'd be like, yeah, we're probably not doing very well in our marriage, but our children have no idea. And then he would hook the children up to electrodes, and what he would find was inordinate amounts of cortisol in their brains. And he said, the truth is, your children, no matter how young, all the way to infants, they know when you aren't doing well in your marriage. And so it really does behoove you to pay attention to what's happening between the two of you in your relationship.
Sure.
It's so true. So many children learn at such young ages how to walk on eggshells. For their parents. And I can't say this, or I have to be perfect. You have all these little perfectionists out there. And it's usually rooted back to, well, I had to do this. And that's what I was talking about. Like, it's such a responsibility to put on your kids to maintain the happiness of the home. That's not their job. And so children will walk on those eggshells. They will, overachieve just to make parents happy or to make parents okay. I better be super good because we can't have nobody upset mom. Nobody upset dad. And so we do learn those things. And I think one of the things we forget as parents, because it's so easy to get caught up, and a lot like what you were talking about, Julie, we want to do it differently than what we were given. We want to give our kids the things that we didn't have, or we don't want them to experience things that we did. And so we focus our parenting on more in that provision, or in that making our kids happy, or making sure our kids are okay and content with things. But we forget we are far more than providers for our children. We are teachers. We are called to teach our children, and even like through discipline and correcting. I mean, God disciplines those he loves. And so we have to have these boundaries, and our kids have to understand, that no, we can't do everything. And so that is so important to remember, is that we are called to teach our children, and we teach them, like Chris was saying, through modeling, our own relationship. He's got the Bible pulled out here, so something's coming. That made me think of Deuteronomy 6:6. And these words I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children.
And she'll
Yeah.
talk of them when you sit in your house and when you walk by the way and when you lie down and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be frontlets before your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and of your gates. Right? You get the idea, right? Go overboard.
Constant. Yes.
This is one of the things that the algorithms realized with our kids
Yeah.
that I think parents, we are not realizing with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where our kids are
That repetitive.
are getting caught up in things that we don't want them to get caught up in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to take us back. I just want to take us back to thinking about focusing on the marriage. I have a friend. He went off to college his freshman year, came home for Christmas, and he said his dad picked him up. He got in the car and he looked at his dad and he was like, "So how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Are you guys all right?" And the father just kind of looked at him and said, "We're good. What's up?" And he said, "Well, I mean, me leaving, last one to leave, I just wasn't sure how you and mom, were going to do." And he said his dad looked at him and said, "Son, the whole goal is for you to leave. And your mom and I, we're real good. We're having a good time. I mean, I love you, but she came first. I love her."
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that is so good, because when you're early on in your marriage, you are not typically thinking about the empty nest, which is actually why we're having this conversation about your marriage really is important, and it should be a priority, because it isn't about just here and now. It is about here and now and in the future. So I'd love for you all to speak to some specific things that in this season of really busy parenthood that couples can do that helps them stay connected, that helps them build intimacy, and all of this, yes, they're modeling for their kids. But what are some specific things that you would say, this is helpful, or we actually did this and we learned from it?
Sure. Yeah. No. And I love that too, because when our daughter went to college, her roommate's parents had gotten divorced, and I think that's maybe why your friend's son, had that happen. And I got to tell you, at 19 or at 9, it's still as painful.
Oh, most definitely.
Still as painful. So one of the things that we like to be reminded of is the sowing and reaping. You're going to reap a harvest, and you're going to reap a harvest that's greater than what's sown. And whether you sow intentionally or not, that's reaping's going to come. And so you've got to be to your question and your point.
Yeah, you're in the sowing years now.
Yeah, you've got to make sure you're intentional on what you're sowing, because else what harvest are you going to reap? So it is good to sit back and think about that, and to be planning on what the harvest is going to look like. And so one of the things is just being protective of the time. Don't let other things, it's one, as far as like weekly date nights, or, even, like a weekly check-in or a daily check-in, those kind of things that we're like, be fierce about. We're going to protect that whenever all, reasonably possible, but we're just not going to let other things push that out. And so, just having certain things that can seem so simple and almost trivial. And I think that's why,
coffee on the porch.
Yeah. And I think that's why people will blow it past, is because, this doesn't really have an impact. Yeah, we're sowing now. Yeah. We're sowing now. And if we're used to doing that, we're used to having these connections and these times of being together as a couple, that's going to continue to grow and to sustain us. So that's one thing that absolutely couples should be doing. And I'll throw in a second one too. I don't know if I'm stealing Jamie's. Pray together. Pray separately, but pray together. It's one of those things that we shouldn't need the research, but the research supports that. Couples who regularly pray together have a 97% satisfaction rate.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, we're called to do some supernatural stuff as a couple. And if we're not abiding in Jesus, if we're not staying connected to the vine, we're just not going to be able to bear the fruit. It's just not going to happen as mere mortals. And so those are my couple of things.
Yeah, and I think it is hard to balance because when you're in parenting seasons, you are balancing enjoying the season that I'm in, but we do also have to look ahead and know that it's purposeful how we're enjoying this and what we're doing now. And so that's what I think is the difficult thing to remember is that what we're doing now is going to result in something. And so knowing and taking it seriously that what we're doing, with our kids and with our marriage now, there's going to be an outcome to that, and Ecclesiastes, Solomon is like, enjoy the life with your wife, enjoy the wife of your youth and do all that. This is supposed to be fun for couples. It's like husbands and
wives.
I've
had people say that this is supposed to be fun. I am not having fun at the moment.
Yes. And when we're really busy, and that's where, if we rewind this and go back to what we were talking about, the filter for our lives, the fun is like one of the first things to go when we're too busy because we are stressed. Our minds, our attitudes are different. Our cortisol levels are higher. And we forget that, I love this man. He's my best friend. Let's have fun. And so make time to play pickleball, to play cards, to go to movies, whatever it is you want to do. And so being intentional about having fun and it's so good for your kids.
Yeah. To put the kids in bed saying, look, it's, I'm not tired. It's not for you. It's for mom and dad.
Amen. Right. I have said that more than once.
That's right. And they may get grumpy. They may not like it, but you're teaching them a beautiful thing. You're equipping them for their relationship in the future. And right now we have a little epidemic happening where we have far less couples. The divorce rate's going a little lower, but it's because couples aren't getting married anymore. The amount of couples getting married is going down. And that tells me we're not giving them a reason to want to get married. And we wanted our kids to grow up and to find good men and to have great families and a great marriage. And I just would much prefer them to not have to figure that out or not have to, what we're not willing to fix, we're passing that to our next generation going, here, you have a go at it. And so I'm rather now, and like the season we're at, I see the fruit of our labor. And that felt so far off, 10, 20 years ago. But here we are. And it is the most beautiful thing in the world to see my children not have to fight tooth and nail to turn this ship around. And to know that the work we did, the sacrifices we made, the redemption of God in our lives, to sit there and bear witness to the fruit of it in our children. Julie, there is nothing better. That bypasses any joy they could have had by getting to play soccer for another season. I mean, that is where it's at, to know that as parents, when you have your young kids in your home, that is an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
You are doing work that you have no idea the joy that is coming and seeing the fruit of that labor. And so it is far worth it. And I would imagine the exact opposite is true as well. When you don't to grow up and to know that my kids are now scared of marriage, that my kids don't know how to function well in a relationship because we didn't model that. There are a lot of parents who have regret over that. And if that's even you, don't be ashamed of that, but do something about it. You can, you can't pick up that lost time, but you can go back and go, hey, son, hey, daughter, we messed this up. Yeah. Here's what we should have done, and be part of the healing process with them.
Yes. Well, and I love, for one, being able to say, hey, I don't think we did this very well. And we want to encourage you to maybe do some things differently. I love that you talk about prayer. I think just about every episode of the podcast, people have talked about the impact of prayer, praying as a couple. And then the date night piece, even even if you don't have money or you don't, you don't have money to go out on a date or to have a babysitter, yes, coffee on the porch, putting the kids to bed a little bit early and putting a blanket out in the backyard and having dinner late, but just the two of you, anything that offers the opportunity, I think what you guys are saying, for connection between each other is really important. And then, I mean, Ted Cunningham was on an episode of the podcast talking about the importance of play and laughter. So if you haven't heard that episode, you should definitely go back and listen to that one because he speaks to how valuable that is. We're so good at it in the beginning and not so great as we get into things and the tension of raising children.
They're tiring.
It is. It's exhausting. Yes. So I would love for you guys to offer up something practical that our listeners could do on the daily, specifically towards just keeping their marriage a priority. And since you're doing this as a couple, I'll give you each the opportunity to answer, but just one practical thing that you think could be helpful to couples.
Well, this is something every single day. I tell my husband something I appreciate about him.
Ah, that was mine.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Well, you're good at it. But
Great
every
mind.
day, it's either, it can be in the form of a thank you, but it can, I mean, so many times, and I feel like, gosh, I tell him this all the time, but I don't think he ever tires of it. Being told that you're such a good husband. I love the way you do this. I love, thank you for listening to me. You're always so compassionate. You're such a great grandfather. You're such a great dad. Thank you for cooking dinner. Just those times. And it changes me, because it shifts gears and you can't be critical and grateful at the same time. And I just posted something on Instagram.
That's called passive aggressive.
Right. I just posted something on Instagram, a picture of his clothes at the bottom of our bed. And I shared that. I'm like, this is what I like to call his rapture move. He's been raptured, the clothes have left. And then I followed it up with, he may not know where the laundry basket is, but this man cooks dinner for me. He drives me everywhere. He loves me so well. He's so appreciative. He cleans the house. He does all that. So don't focus on that. That's a place that says he needs me. He needs my help in this area of finding the laundry basket. But where he doesn't need my help is all the sacrificial ways he loves me. Yeah. And I can focus on the clothes, or I can focus on this man who is just incredible. And I think, I believe he's that incredible because he is. But I also think because over the years, I have convinced myself of that because I tell him that every day. I let him know. And so that's changed my own heart and changed my own mind. And I would fight somebody if they told me he weren't incredible. That is like fighting territory. I'm like, no, this man is the best. And just complimenting him and affirming him every day, I think is very beneficial for both of you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was going to say that too. And it's something easy to do. It's something quick to do, and it does so much relationally, neurologically, and just shifts everything. So I guess my other one would be, it doesn't seem as relational, but it is, get in the Word. Get in the Word. Have some time in the Word daily, even if it feels it's just my time. Yeah, but that does change you. You can't. It's living and breathing, so you can't have an experience with it and it not change you.
Yeah, that's good.
Both of you are talking. Yeah, you're both talking about a mindset and where your focus is, and that absolutely sets your trajectory. Yeah, I love that. Thank you all so much. This has been a great conversation.
Oh, absolutely. We always love talking with you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening today. For more resources, you can visit marriageonthedaily.com. If you've enjoyed this episode, I would love for you to share it with your friends as we continue to grow the podcast. And until next time, remember, it's the little things that matter on the daily in your marriage.